I don't know, it might be the first time that we're welcoming everybody here, but also everybody out there. There are maybe as many people out there out on Zoom land as are here, but we'd like to welcome everyone. And before we begin, I just want to mention that we just found out on Sunday night we're going to have a hesped for Ruchaim Kanievsky by Rabbi Bondi, who Rabbi Bondi is very works together with Rabbi Eidlitz at Orleo, and he has been in contact with Ruchaim Kanievsky for many years. Letters, like tons of letters. So I think he has a very unique perspective of this great goal we lost. So I want to make it very well. We'll have a flyer up. I'd like to thank Aaron Gross for tonight's flyer and every flyer that he puts out. Thank you. He's recording that, so that will be tonight's share will be on the show's website, and of course we're on Zoom also live across the country. So we'd like to. I can't say enough for Rabbi Eidlitz. Again, many of you have him on speed dial throughout the year. People call me and I say, call Rabbi Eidlitz. Just get the answer. So, and especially this time of year, we really need all the information we can about Pesach. Things are constantly changing, so without further ado, it's really incumbent to have Rabbi Eidlitz.
As I've said in the past, I'm always happy, and this is where Pesach starts for me, since this is where I started learning Aleph Beis, so it seems appropriate to years later, many decades later. I was with Mr. Carroll at the time, Summers of L'chaim, so it's certainly a great place to begin Pesach.
We don't see
They don't see anything.
We'll take it.
Okay?
He's really good at this.
Where's my
yes,
douglas?
now.
Okay, how's that? Very good.
You muted them, so it's
Excellent.
That's one solution.
Every Rabbi has been trying to figure out how to
Why do you think he does, not me?
I went to some stores today, different stores, to Ralph's and to some kosher stores, to see what do we have out in the stores, and I found one major difference. The price is much, much higher. The prices of this year's Pesach, everything has gone up considerably. It's there. There was a fear at one point that we wouldn't have, we do, but it certainly is quite expensive. There was a rumor that chickens were being bred without the white meat because there's a shortage. There is in Lakewood. There's a limit of some places that have 2 and some have 6, but there's a limit around many parts of the country. The reason for that isn't that we have strange chickens, but there was a shortage of chickens. There was a difficulty in shechting. A program that's going to Morocco took their own shechting to shecht in Morocco. They couldn't bring from the United States. There wasn't enough. But so the caterers have been shopping for quite a while, and that's the reason why you'll find it. Costco tells you they're out of everything. I know personally of a number of caterers who went into Costco's around the country and bought everything they had for Pesach. So they absolutely cleaned out what there was. But we'll see a number of things, hopefully, that can help during Pesach considerably. One thing I would like to mention that I find very important, and this I picked up today at Ralph's, and I felt a good price there, $17 a pound. So that was pretty good. What a person has to know, there are a couple of things to bear in mind with this. This year is Shemitah. This is the Shemitah year. This is the year that my Rabbi, the Panovich Rav Zatzal Kahneman, when Shemitah came, the next day he was seen going over to a tree. He kissed it and he said, "Good Yom Tov Tzayach," and he wished it a Mazel Tov at the birthday. It's a special time of Kedusha. It comes with many halachas. And one of them is that if you have product if we have product from Eretz Yisrael, we can't throw it out, even when we're done with it. Besides the fact that great difficulties of using it. But let's say it's all okay. It's okay from someone's farm, no money passed hands, it was some oats are basting, and it came in, and now we have it. We do have such wines in our area. And the halacha is that it's disrespectful to throw away any Shemitah leftovers. They have to be left out to rot. That's going to happen when we get our esregim next season from Eretz Yisrael. Those can't be thrown away. They have to be left until they're totally dry and useless. Then they can be thrown away. Typically in Eretz Yisrael now people have different garbage bags, and it's the interim garbage bags where they keep things to be able to let them rot. Again, they can't be thrown away. So I asked the OU and the other kashrus agencies, what happens with something like this? Do we have to take this? These are matzahs from Eretz Yisrael. Do we have to take every crumb on the table that we're not eating and gather it and let it rot? What's to be done with that? Besides the fact, how do we use it? So we have to know that in Shemitah is always complex. Chas Dabar, there are thousands of people in Eretz Yisrael who are going with it, have passed the Nisan, and they're actually keeping Shemitah beautifully. But there is such a thing that happened way back from when it became a Medina, that called Heter Mechira, selling the whole country to an Arab. Most don't feel that that has legitimacy, which means that we can't use the products at all, Israeli products. That would include us, that we would not be able to use any. Others are done, at least in the Minhag of Yerushalayim, with something called Otsar basting. The way that works is the Beis Yerushalayim hires the farmer to, since most people don't have the equipment, at minimum wage to cultivate what they have, and then they bring it to the stores, and the people pay the fee for what it took to get to market. No markup, no profits, nothing on it. That's done. That's called Otsar basting. That's completely agreed to do. Bnei Brak doesn't do it, but most of the rest of Eretz Yisrael does that. So if we have an Otsar basting bottle of wine in Israel, that's okay. But if we have, as we do here, a couple of Otsar bastings, I think then again that would have all the restrictions of wine that I would not recommend. Any OU product, okay, star cake, specifically, let's say this one now, of matzah. They said the matzah is either, the flour, is either from the Negev, that's not halachically part of it, Eretz Yisrael, or it's from overseas, or it's grown in another time beforehand and stored. It is not whatsoever subject to any halachas of Shemitah. So any product that we get on one of our better hashgachas, you don't have to worry about any of the Shemitah halachas. They even coming from Israel, they're not going to have those halachas and those issues with it. You know, once I have the matzah, there is one thing that I would like to say before I forget, and that is many of us have these sheets, and people are very careful. Everyone quickly eat the right amount. Okay, measure the hand one, measure the machine matzah, and this is the way it goes, and you have to eat it within a few minutes, and so on, which is all correct. But the problem that Moshe Feinstein has with that is that's just as correct every Shabbos, every time of the year. That whenever we wash on challah, we also have to, the people need to eat a bichtei achilas pras within 2 to 9 minutes and eat a kazayis, or else, as he points out, the entire meal is stolen. The entire meal is not with brachas, because the hamotzi didn't really count, since it wasn't enough, which means no brachas were said over everything. which means benching is a rachel of atol, it's a total disaster. So once we get to have it on Pesach, it's a wonderful thing to think of it for the rest of the year. This is something I noticed today in Ralph's Joyva. There's different types of kitnios. There's general kitnios, a lot from Israel. The OU is certifying some kitnios, things that are not for Ashkenazim. The OK is certifying, and the Star K. Those three primarily are doing certain things kitnios. And they say that it's only for those Sephardim who eat kitnios during Pesach, which is very accurate, and they're very careful that it follows all of the rules. The thing about this product, this is such an unusual history. Joyva used gelatin from non-kosher animals. And then they applied to the Chaf K a number of years ago and received the Chaf K, and they are Chaf K certified. This says on it a different hashgacha. This has on it the hashgacha of Rabbi Sheinkopf, who feels Ashkenazim can eat kitnios. What happened is when the Joyva company met with Chaf K, they said, we'll go with the kosher gelatin. We're going to switch from pig gelatin to fish gelatin, certified kosher. And they did, and they do. And all year round, Chaf K. Come Pesach, they said, no, that's where we draw the line. Pesach, there's too much money on it, and we can't make it sweet enough without the corn syrup. So Rabbi Dr. Sheinkopf is comfortable with that. That's why it switches to his hashgacha. What's interesting is, this is the typical one that's always been like that. This just came out. This one says a little different. This one has on it that it is ingredients, sugar, corn syrup, a fish gelatin, and so on, so obviously kitnios. This one says on it glucose syrup, cane sugar, which means that they had switched it, but still doesn't qualify for the Chaf K. What it does, the reason primarily that I'm mentioning what does qualify is, today, if you want to use it, despite the fact that there's no Chaf K on it, don't worry about it. It's under the Chaf K. And right after Pesach, if there's a sale on it, but when they're left over, it's under the Chaf K. The gelatin is kosher. It's only an issue of that corn syrup, and so not an issue for afterwards. One thing that's nice, we've always had trouble finding maple syrup every year.
I didn't fully catch that. So on that Joyva product,
so
is it not okay for Ashkenaz to eat on Pesach?
Correct.
Okay.
Because of one reason, corn syrup.
Okay.
So before and after Pesach, it's a moot point. That's why it's fine. Maple syrup has been hard to find. There's a few at Adirondack. There's a couple I have over here that are fine. The OU has researched all of their certifications of maple syrup. Every pure maple syrup, they're comfortable as kosher l'Pesach. Every one of anything that says on it, like this one, is pure maple syrup. There are laws about that. They're quite intent on that. It has to stay like that. So as long as it's like that, then it absolutely is fine. The sugar has, to a large degree, remained good. That we have white sugar, any other white sugars. That means it can have hashgacha. Now, this one has hashgacha and OKP, always, all year on the CNH. Not very difficult. And on the brown sugar, we definitely need the hashgacha, but it hasn't. What happened with brown sugar? Brown sugar, all white sugar is brown sugar. Before white sugar is white, it's brown. That's when it has the chaff and then the molasses, the natural ingredients are that. Afterwards, they add a caramel color to it if they want to do it on the cheap. They want to go ahead and just wash it, add some caramel syrup to it, which is not kosher Pesach, and make, but some will use real brown sugar. So when this has an OKP on the CNH, that means that this brown sugar is not just kosher Pesach, but it means it's the original, real, it's actual brown sugar. It's not something that was just, afterwards made to look like that. When it comes to drinks, again, pure water, even with the minerals are fine, but if we're adding a citric, any deviation of that often, that can even come from wheat, and that becomes quite problematic. Now, there are ones on the market that are, this become quite a big company, Tuscany. The Tuscany company is certified kosher in many flavors for Pesach, and this you'll find around. So this is an easy one. It has an OUP and a couple of other hashgachas, so it's fine. The plain water, plain, by that I mean plain seltzer, plain regular water, smart water, which just has minerals in it. Those are all are fine to use for Pesach. On the other hand, somewhere over here I have a tonic water. Is that on this side?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. A tonic water and a club soda. These have ingredients to them, including kidneys. Not chametz, but they do have kidneys. These, by law, by nature, by the formula, have, so the club soda tonic water would need hashgacha for Pesach. There is such a thing. But other than that, it could be a Costco water or Ralph's water, anything that we've gone at. There's always going to be fine for Pesach. The people are often concerned about their pets, what they feed with the pets. And the truth is, halachically, it's a concern. We can't have benefit from chametz on Pesach. So unlike normally, what do I care what I feed the animal? Normally during the year, I only care one thing. We're not allowed to have benefit also from milk and meat mixtures. So we have to look at any dog food, cat food, and so on. Is there a mixture of milk and meat? We can't, it's not that the dog can't, I don't care how firm the dog is, but I can't have hana. And if a person owns a pet, they have to. And halacha, it's a machlokas, the Rambam, the Ramban, whether it's still rice or drabanan. But because it's tzal balakayim, they have to feed the animal. So they can fulfill their obligation, but not with treif. Chazer is fine, but not beef and milk. So one of the things in the list, I have a list over here in there of the ones that are not with milk and meat, that's one thing we're looking for. The other thing, of course, for Pesach, we're looking for no chametz, because we can't have enough from that. The CRC gives to Eidlitz, and the OU has an OUP kosher paws, that both are made specially kosher Pesach, and the interesting thing is that it says no kitnios or gebrochs. So it's good for Hasidic dogs, it's good for, it does Ashkenazi Hasidic, it does make a difference. Everybody can be exit. Obviously, I'm assuming they meant to make a joke, because obviously there is no such thing by animals. The animals are animals, it's our chiyuv, not the animal's chiyuv. The sliced types of mushrooms, all the different types, are fine for Pesach. Even though they're cut up, they are fine. You'll see, it's too numerous for me to take your time telling you all the different meats. Yeah, okay for Pesach, not. Generally, OU and other well-certified meats from the factory are made kosher Pesach, always. incredibly makpid. They are so adamant that no chametz ever comes around. But the repackaging, oh, that's a different story. If a place like one of the kosher stores is buying a container of chickens, and then they'll repackage it, they can repackage it with any chametz around. So they would know, only they would know, or their hashgacha would know. But the rule is a rule for those things that are from a company. There is, I don't know if you saw the alert that we sent out recently, that someone, a consumer, sent in that they had it with Costco, that they went in, Costco, and 2 in the row looked funny. There was no empire around, and they said, yeah, it always leaks, so they just take it out and put it into their own wrapping and write kosher on it. Of course, once they violate the integrity of that seal, it's gone. It's treif. It's 100% halachically treif. So that's we have to be careful in some places just to make sure that the repackaging did not happen in any way. When it comes to salt, let's see if I find salt here. This is a multiple issue salt. This is Hain sea salt. This salt does not supply iodine, a necessary nutrient, which is good for us. What's not as good, there's good and there's not. The iodine is a necessary nutrient. Therefore, it's glued on with corn syrup to each little piece of salt, ruining the salt. But on the other hand, they make a non-iodized salt. Everybody, Leslie, all the companies have non-iodized salt, and we can just get any non-iodized salt, which is a good idea. This one is a non-iodized sea salt. Kosher Pesach doesn't have hashgacha for Pesach, doesn't need hashgacha for Pesach, it's fine. The only issue is that it's not cooked. When they do sea salt, when they mine a salt, they have to process it and cook it. When you take a salt like this, they put it into usually an acre by an acre, fill it up with the ocean, and let it dry from the sun. And then they're able to wash it in a cold wash and package it, which means it's not mavushal. Not being mavushal is an issue that on Shabbos, if we want to sprinkle it now onto a roast, which is a davar gush, something that's of substance, and that substance, hot substance, could cook the salt. So we would need to first slice it into smaller slices before putting this type, a non-cooked salt onto it to make sure that it was okay. The wines, the only wine that comes to mind is kitnius is a Manischewitz, which very few of us would use for the starter drink, but it is what it is. It is the Manischewitz markets mostly to non-Jews who like it. They call it a mad dog, because they can't say Manischewitz, and it sells very well. It's very inexpensive. Also, much of it is kitnios. Some of it has no UP, some of it has no U. They're next to each other. If you do get it, then just make sure you're getting the one with the proper hashgacha on it. There's all sorts of grape juices. There's a organic, there's the regular. This one is mavushal. This is mavushal. I don't have to look at it, I know it's mavushal. Why? Because it's plastic. And as soon as it would be glass, a big bottle like this, the 50.1 ounce, then I know that it's not mavushal. That's the way they pack it. They pack it like that. Those people wish to follow the Rambam. And those people in some other opinions that say that you could use a non-mavushal grape juice for the Dalet Kaisis are very interested in that. Some people want it anyway because it's more important. They want it even for Kiddush and Havdalah, it's more important. A non-mavushal wine obviously could age into a good wine. So therefore they want to use that. That's the Rambam's way to look at it. And that's why the company makes a certain amount of non-mevushal, and everything else is mevushal. But on the wines, you do want to look and see to make sure which of the wines are mevushal and which are not. There they'll say it. Any of the aluminum foil stuff, be it aluminum foil itself, this one happens to have a Kroger one with the Star K, but it didn't need it. And the Star K knows that, and they say that they tell the company likes it for advertising. Because a lot of stuff companies like on water, they're told generally they don't need it, but they put it on it anyway because it's good advertising. It's kosher. If it's kosher to non-Jews, that means that it is pure, and that's us. So that's the only reason it's there. But in any case, it is kosher for Pesach with no hashgacha for Pesach whatsoever. Famous one is Kors that says that when they put the OEO on Kors, then it went up so much more than on the Super Bowl ad they tried that they realized for a relatively small amount of money they could taste that hashgacha. These, and just once I'm holding it, there is the debate if they need to be toveled first. And in Lakewood, many people are tovelit, and in Bnei Brak, I'm quite sure they would be tovelit. If you're going to, some people say an urban myth that if you're only going to use it once, it can be used, anything can be used once without we get one grace period. That's not true. It's once we decide that something is a kli, is a utensil, that's it. It needs to be toveled. That's the rice, the pasuk kli, it has to be toveled. So most people look at this and say, I'm going to use it, as Moshe says, once, twice, 3 times. It's garbage when we buy it, but it's not a kli. We don't buy this as an heirloom. We buy it to use and soon throw away. But if somebody doesn't have money, and someone again is in a Bnei Braker, and maybe they would use it for a year, maybe they're going to use it, they can't afford a real one, so they'll get this instead, then before the first use they'll have to be told. That's the difference. It's in the head, it's in the intention, it's psychologically, what is it that a person intends to do with it. The eggs, many of them have hashgachas now on them. The hashgachas really are, again, they're a little more than water, not a lot more than water. They're to say, some of the places say, well, they won't give the hashgacha unless they are free range. If they're cooped up, if they're salab al chaim, as the famous shuvah that Rav Moshe said, that veal, forget the white veal for Jews. And from when he said it, it disappeared from the shelves. There's a white veal, you take the little baby, put it into a pan dark, and just when it's ready to die, because it's only been fed milk and its legs are wobbly, then you shecht it, that's a white veal. That's what the kosher white veal is. We have brown veal. Ours is tan, because that's not allowed. From when Moshe wrote it, Salab al Chaim, so he said that we're not allowed to eat something that we're causing such pain to an animal, so that's switched our veal. So there is that element. If it has a vitamin E, someone say it has a vitamin E, it has some other things. Some people where they stamp something on it. None of that has been found to be an issue. None of it. So really the eggs are all fine. What's the issue? There's the issue with the Ramah. The Ramah says in Shulchan Aruch that if you have such a thing, if you have eggs and they're in the barnyard and they're lying in chametz all around the barnyard, the feed that we give to them, that can permeate. We know that an egg is permeable, Easter eggs. That's what you put them in a dye and it sucks it up. It's very permeable. And so that, the Ramah's issue is an issue. We try to buy eggs and people say that before Pesach. That's not true, nor is there room to buy. We tried to buy eggs that were laid before Pesach, not that they were in the carton then. So, which means we have a good few days into Chol Hamoed, many days, if not all Pesach, but certainly many days in our commercial system. We're so huge that there's many days that we have nothing really to worry about. Tums is made from limestone. They've been around for very close to 100 years now and haven't changed the formula, but they did change many flavors. Some of the flavors may have kitnios in them. And if the one to use, if someone needs Tums, it usually is, to take Tums as a calcium supplement would probably be a mistake, unless somebody needs calcium. If a person is missing calcium, they could take it. Kitnios is okay to take if it's missing from the body, not just to be extra healthy and fortified. Is it a vitamin or a supplement? Is one just supplementing themselves? But one who needs it because they had too much roast and way too much matzah, they can use it. That's fine. This is kale. This is probably my halacha enemy number one of that. Kale is one of the most buggy things I find around. And the reason for that is because of this. All these folds and all the inner folds are great places for them to hide. It's amazing when you take a loop, a really good lens, and look at it. I once found 11 having a picnic in the middle of one leaf, one area. There were 11 of them. So one has to be careful. With all of our incredible adherence and as a heroes, being careful with what we buy, what we eat during Pesach, we sure don't want to take on all these inyanim of bugs. I would suggest very strongly to be careful with that. This I haven't seen, but I sure have seen in past years, just like this or opened at Ralph's and other stores from Israel. They say product of Israel. We don't get a lot. In the East Coast, they're getting navel oranges from Israel. They're getting a number of things. What I've seen here has been this and flowers. And these little in plastic containers, the flower petals. People like to put them around the food for decoration, that sort of thing. Those flowers, almost always, again, in my case, I've been checking it for about 40 years, and I've never found without, never, not one single one without. But I'm sure there must be some places without, or you clean it. But if it's from Eretz Yisrael, we're getting into Shemitah issues, a debate. Some who say that it even goes to the flowers, and you would not want to use the flowers from Eretz Yisrael. Some things are straightforward, all plastic, paper, all. If it's plastic and paper, don't worry about it. Which means if you have plastic plates, paper plates, it's better to get the paper plates of the type that have a design on them. That is better because these are not the cheapest white ones. But the truth of the matter is that none of them are really leaking any kitnios there. It's not a major issue on that. Sponges without soap of this type, any type, there's no issue, and soaps are not an issue. If it's a palmolive or ivory or whatever for the dishes, those are, as Rabbi said, of Sam Dafman and Hoban Ashkocha, on poison you don't need Ashkocha, and on soap we don't consider that food. That's since it's so far from the category of food, it doesn't come to that level. The frozen vegetables and frozen fruit are very different. This is, I pineapple chunks, these are mango. This one says on it that it is ingredients organic mango. That means that's fine for Pesach. You can take it, open it, eat it out of it right the way it is. There's no need to do anything. Many of these things have like peaches in particular, have a citric acid added to them, and the citric acid is problematic. So, but plain like this is fine. Yeah.
If you have frozen strawberries or something like that, do they require checking?
Well, it's impossible to check a frozen strawberry.
I mean,
but
you
it's a complex question that you ask. The short answer is yes and no. Yes, if you want to eat it, and you can't, it's not going to work. No, if you want to parade it. Because if you want to parade, you want to have a smoothie during Pesach. So you want to take a bunch of frozen strawberries from the store, any store, and it says on it, frozen strawberries. So we're good there. Now, the question is the bugs. But once they wash it the way they pack it, it's below miyat hamatzui. It's below the threshold of worry. Even though we have a rule, we can't on purpose make something not kosher, which means I can't put a little bit of milk in my cholent because I want to put just a little bit, but I'm going to measure carefully, and it's about that Chazal said no way. I can't do bittul on purpose. Bittul is meant to be an after the fact tool. But here, so if I knew there's bugs in there, and now I'm going to put in the blender, it's going to chop up the bugs, and I'm only going to have bug juice, and bug juice is bittul, but I can't chop them up because I'm bottling them on purpose. But since they're under the threshold of being there, so therefore we can absolutely do that. And even on Pesach, that works. Yeah.
So my question is like frozen fruits like blueberries. Those need a hechsher?
Generally speaking, during the year, no. On Pesach, generally speaking, no. Because blueberries usually, if you look at the frozen blueberries, it says ingredients blueberries.
Okay.
And that's which I should mention a law the government has, which is if let's say you have a package of frozen blueberries and you're looking all over and you can't find the ingredients, that's okay. That's the law. If there's a picture of blueberries on it and it says blueberries, they don't have to say what sounds anyway odd ingredients blueberries. But many do because people are uncomfortable. They want to know is it blueberries and flavors or other things, so they usually do, but they don't have to.
Okay, so you had mentioned that peaches were an issue because there could be citric acid?
I've never seen it without citric acid, yes. Citric acid, what happens is certain things, like apples, that we know, oxidize. Many fruits, as soon as you open them, they oxidize. Take an apple, cut it open, it's going to start turning brown relatively quickly. Pour some citric acid on it right away, it won't.
Okay.
It won't. It'll keep it for a long time. So that's the citric acid.
So apple slices would be a problem.
I'm sorry, which?
Apple slices.
Oh, apple slices definitely would be it. Apples. The rabbi says the apple slices certainly are, unless they're made. That would take a hashgacha for Pesach, which means that they used a citric acid that was kosher Pesach and so on, and did not use something that's problematic. That definitely is the case. Teas are still a whole lot easier and better than coffees. Tea is an age-old thing where you just go ahead and you take steep. Usually they steep them. They take it and they start a little bit of cooking on it. Shiloh, if that's called cooking or not. Put in a tea bag or something and then you've got a tea. Many of the cheaper teas, a lot of the teas, have beefed up flavoring added to it. That's out of the question. Flavoring is one of the hardest things on hashgacha, and usually there's alcohol involved, that isn't going to work. But if you have the plain tea, just tea, or you have a tea that is a plain green tea, and so on, nothing else, not like Celestial that'll have 5 or 6 other ingredients, but just the tea, that's fine to use. Sweet Tzitzni has had for years and years. The OUP on it, the Lipton was good. There's a few that I've listed. I only list those things, by the way, so that someone will be comfortable with it. Some people want to see a name, but they're fine. This is a product, the Kroger's liquid egg whites, and it always has the hashgacha on it, the OUP, all year. It's right by the eggs, usually on top of the eggs, and that you can find as well. The Pompeian extra virgin olive oil and grapeseed oil, including in the spray, is fine. It's fine for Pesach, and the Star K is comfortable that there's no issues. We know that at least according to the OU, the all extra virgin olive oil is kosher Pesach. So if the Costco is not cleared out, they're probably still the least expensive ones, from what I understand. For extra virgin, people buy a 5-gallon and use it all at Pesach. The same is true for a virgin coconut oil with the OU on it, without a P. That the virgin coconut oil is done the same thing. Virgin means, it's changed what it means, but it means now that they did not cook it. Pure, they cooked it. If it's not pure, they for sure cooked it. Extra pure, they cooked it. Well, what it means is they take it, they crush it, and then they put it at 850 degrees into this funnel, and it goes and it drips down through there, and then goes in a pipe to the next one, and it goes about 200 yards through these funnels till they get a nice clear. You think of it converting a motor oil to a drinkable oil. Extra virgin, it used to be virgin olive oil, and they ruined that term legally. Now, extra virgin olive oil, you're not supposed to touch at all. It means they press it, and cold press, it must be. Some of them say cold press extra virgin, that's redundant. That is redundancy. By law, every extra virgin olive oil. Where is the shaila? Some of the kashrus agencies debate on this. The shaila is when it comes to a ship. A ship's coming in from Italy with extra virgin, common source, somewhere in the Mediterranean. They'll capsize without a doubt within a day if they don't heat the oil, because the oil will go to one side and it'll push them over. And what do? They keep that at a warm temperature the entire voyage, and then it's still, the viscosity is thin, is warm, and they pump it out. That's the way they're able to bring it. That, the question is, that container ship, then should be kosher. And in reality, there's a Star K, there's an OK koshering port. There's one in Greece, there's one in Naples. There's a few around the world where the ships go to, and they go in, they clean it out automatically. Then a mashgiach goes into this cavernous thing and checks all over to make sure that's clean before they put the next thing in. That's where will be hashgacha of, let's say, an OKP or Star KP. If they just know they cleaned it, but the mashgiach didn't go in, then, but it's always totally clean, then they will go, and it's more than a day, then they'll allow it to be used even without the P on it. That's the primary difference. Stevia is, although it is a seaweed, but the way it's processed is with alcohol, so stevia does need hashgacha for Pesach. This is unusual that the Star K is doing it, but they kind of sort of say what they're doing if you're willing to read a lot. This is dark chocolate egg matzahs that fully coated. So that means they took egg matzahs and put chocolate on it. But egg matzahs, like it says on it somewhere over here, according to Shulchan Aruch, egg matzah may be eaten only by the infirm, aged, or children. So if you're not one of those, then there should be that don't buy the product. I was surprised that it does have the hashgacha, and if it is, really should have it on the front, warning people, don't buy this if you're going to serve it to any healthy adult, because Ashkenazim do not allow it for them. Sometimes in the zeal to do everything perfectly, people buy anything that's being sold. This is a pull-out faucet cover for Pesach. So that, well, I'm not really sure so that what, but whatever it is, it's for Pesach. You're supposed to cover your faucet with it in case any chametz ever got into the faucet. Again, obviously we don't feel we need that. When it comes to the nuts, I like to remind everyone that things, even pecans, if they are whole or halves or whatever, only midget pecans that are pieces of midget pecans need hashgach for Pesach. But any other nut, walnut, almonds, and so on, if it says on it, let's see what this one is. This one doesn't even say. So that's because they're relying on the fact that they said what it is on the front, and that's fine. That is fine. The same thing would be, I should have here somewhere, almonds, that here, something like this, again, that would be fine. They also don't say, because it's clear, these are whole, and that's fine. So if it's ground, it needs hashgacha. Then of course we're worried about machinery. Otherwise we're not really worried about it. Real lemon, real lime, has an OU but not for Pesach, that's fine. And unflavored dental floss is good for Pesach, but as unflavored, we're always, again, like I said, always worried about flavoring. This is a great deal of talk about paper towels. There's nothing wrong with the paper. There's nothing wrong with the cardboard. The only thing at the end of a full roll, there's some kitnios glue. So therefore that shouldn't be used with something hot, the first 1 or 2 pieces. But other than that, they're fine. Yeah.
On the subject of lemon juice, is it only the real lemon and the real lime, or in general lemon juice has
No, it's a lot of lemon juice is beefed up with citric acid, and again could actually have chametz in it. So no, that's the real lemon, the real lime, those specific companies. Here it is. This is an oddity of both with hashgacha oils, the regular oils. They're not one of those one could use without. They're vegetable. This one is vegetable oil, and this one is cottonseed oil. So there's 2 things to note with this one. Let's see where the ingredients. They say what type of vegetable it is. Pure. Why are they calling it vegetable? The meaning of Yerushalayim is to call this kitnios. They call cottonseed kitnios. They won't use it in your. That is actually in all of Eretz Yisrael. They won't use this type. So this cottonseed oil is sold as a Hasidic hashgacha from New York. It's a good hashgacha, and it's a good product, because in America, the Rabbanim say it's okay. This one, though, would seem to be the way to go if someone has company from Eretz Yisrael whose meaning is not to use it, because it says it's vegetable oil. Except that in ingredients, it says ingredient is cottonseed oil. So that's not going to really help a whole lot, other than deceive people into thinking that it's okay. So if you do have company from Eretz Yisrael, you should try not to use cottonseed oil, though, because we never want to violate a person's minhag, and that is the minhag. It's interesting, this is almost a throwback. When they couldn't make decent gelatin, they just, it wasn't working, so they used agar. This is agar. They were using seaweed, the kosher companies. The non-kosher were using from animals, and bovine are using non-kosher gelatin. but they're really good hashgachas. They use seaweed, and when they use seaweed, it was sticky, the marshmallow, so they put token. That's where that whole thing of it, and it became associated with Pesach, so much so that even though they now can make, like these, the Savion ones and many other companies, regular, because they're using, both of them say fish gelatin. That's what everybody's doing. That's even what a lot of the big companies are using now, fish gelatin. But once it's stuck in people's minds that there's coconut, real Pesach coconut, so that's why it was an all-time, that's why everyone, so it's okay. So they're still doing it. It's the only reason to do that manufacturing-wise, they definitely don't need to do it. Non-gebrauchs, gebrauchs and non-gebrauchs has nothing to do with frumkeit. That has to do with the minhag. And even as Rav Ruderman, as Asal had said, somebody asked him, but you don't eat, the Litvish way is to eat gebrauchs, is to make knedlach, to crumble matzah into a soup. That's fine. And I said, why did he say? Because Rabbi Weinberg was his son-in-law. He was a shtickle Hasidish. He wanted him to eat in his house. He only had the one child, so therefore that's it. But Lamai said that is, the Litvish was not, and the Hasidish was, yeah. The minhagim Klal Yisrael are kadeshim, but they're different minhagim. They're not indications of a person as being more careful or not. Tradition, when they have to be very, very careful because they look kind of alike. This is a Pesach tradition one. This is, it says non-gebrach, gluten-free, which again, during this time of year, our shows are being pirated by people who are celiacs and must eat gluten-free. So they're going all over. There's alerts out on celiac websites. Now's the time. The Jews put out all of their stuff that we can eat, and some of them don't buy cases because we're the only ones making stuff that really works for someone who can't have gluten. Via, Kirsch Baruch, of course, is good to Klal Yisrael, and the Via Instant is one of the coffees that is good. Coffee, again, is an issue. Coffee is microencapsulated, and since it's in the microencapsulation, when they're spraying through in a spray dryer, the liquid, and it goes down, they're microencapsulating it each bit so it will stay fresh. It was something that it can be kitnios in any case. So that's a problem other than ones that I have listed there, and the Via makes it. When we say that we can't use spices without hashgacha, that's if they're ground up spices and we're worried about the machinery. But something like this, black peppercorns, or like this one, pure cinnamon beans, or any other leaves, and so on, that hasn't gone through the grinding machines, those are fine. There's no reason. Those do not need hashgacha for Pesach. They're perfectly fine without it. Yeah.
For some people are still using hand sanitizers that are alcohol-based. What's the story about that?
In the shul,
There are? Yeah, there's some.
seems to be, 30, 40 of them.
Yeah. Can that be used on Pesach?
The hand sanitizers can be used on Pesach, absolutely. And there's some debate in the posting.
It's denatured. It's
This one is not debatable. This one is not debatable. A pourable one was. Rav Moshe holds there's such a thing called memareh, one of the 39 Avos Malachos, of smearing. When you take a hide of an animal and you remove the carcass and you want to use the leather, you smear the inside. That's called memareh. So the question is it memareh by liquid soap, if you want to use it on Shabbos? Is there memareh by using this? Most poskim say no. Rav Moshe feels if it pours like molasses, yes. If it pours like water, no. So this is just a spray. This for sure, Rav Moshe would be very comfortable with this. Many other poskim though, are, allow it as well. We have to be careful with milks, by the way. There's, it just the past couple of years seems to be a lot of oat milk came up. So a lot of things are being processed on the same machinery as oat milk. A lot of the odd soy milk, rice milk. If we want to use milk for a child, I've listed a few that are not on the same machinery, but we do have to be careful that's not on the same machinery. There's also some coffee substitutes like this Roma that are absolutely 100% pumice. They substitute, instead of coffee, they substitute other grains, and that's it. This is an inside tip. This is the Medan Date Ale. This is the last year you can get it. So if you like it, then you want to get it quickly because they just went out of business. And there isn't anymore. Certain things from Eretz Yisrael, like this Kvitzis Yavne, which has on it, confuses us because it says Hashgacha B'datz Lo Kolol Pesach, not for Pesach, does not include Pesach. Then on the other side, a big OUP. So that doesn't look so good. But in reality, it's fine. Because the Badatz has the old minhag from the 1800s not to use garlic and not to do a lot of processed things. That's not their halacha, that's their minhag. And obviously they're keeping to their minhag. So they invite the OU to come in. You don't have that minhag, you give the hashgacha on it. But we won't, because that's against our minhag. So it has nothing to do with conscious per se, and it's absolutely fine for a person to use it. When it comes to mixed vegetables, that's not going to work, what we said before. Mixed vegetables are go into a retort, into a slight cooker, to blanch them and a little bit cook them, and the same thing is often used for, almost always used for pasta. So they share pasta equipment. That one is definitely out. Remember that there are so many things that are made for Sephardim now. Like this stuff says on it star KP from the star K. But it's made like that with the S inside, Sephardi. That means that they're trying to say the OU names all of their kidney stuff kidney, so we won't make a mistake on it. This is a beauty, and be just caution. This is a number of gluten-free matzahs, which of course are not matzahs. They're tapioca. They can't be used for the Seder. They can be used during a Chol Hamoed. Person just wants to munch on something that is tapioca, there's nothing wrong. But anytime we need matzah, anytime we need a motzi, these are the furthest thing from it. They are shahankos. That also is very good. Sukkah's time, a person can eat them out of a sukkah. You can eat them anywhere. A person wants to go on a trip out of their sukkah, they can get, instead of Oreos, get the imitation non-Gebrach's Oreos, and then they can be as well. So there's a use for everything, and if we look hard enough, we certainly can find some use for it. But we do have to be careful with each one of those that we're getting. The Talmud soups, just be careful when you get them. Look for the hashgacha on each three. Because sometimes I have a little one of those little boxes, and I've seen where they are mixed up. Yeah, for Pesach, not for Pesach. We should check that. Okay? I think that should hold us for now. Do what? Soda. Okay, thank you. Soda is complicated or not. This soda is not complicated. This one's easy because this is the regular Coke. The regular Coke and Pepsi does and Sprite, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that make, and then there's, if a person gets desperate, there's Maim Chaim and some other stuff that are made. It's just a matter like they call it soda water. You take soda, you take the CO2, and you put some sugar in it, real sugar, and you have it. This Coke is, of course, made with real sugar, not with the corn syrup, and that's where many people, many non-Jews, are buying it, because it reminds me, it's like the Mexican Coke. Mexican Coke sells for a lot more money in these little glass containers. Well, this is somewhat similar to it in the fact that this is pure sugar. And when I said complicated, I didn't mean so much this one, I meant its twin, the diet one. The Diet Coke also has an OUP, but the Diet Coke has kitnios in it. So what's up? Since when is it okay kitnios? It's a new term over the past, I think, 10 years or so. It's called kitnios shenishtanu. The kitnios that are there undergoes a great deal of change. There's acids added to it, and by the time the aspartame becomes aspartame, they have converted the glucose in it to a different product. That's the heter where many throughout the world are using what they invented, a term, literally invented, this is in halacha, of kitnios shenishtanu. That's the question is on chometz shenishtanu, and we're machmir. Even though the chometz has been rendered different, but generally we're machmir. The thought of allowing non-kosher animals to be gelatin, kosher gelatin, what they used to always call kosher gelatin, is because it's undergone a great process of 2 types of acid, and therefore it's nishtanu. We're not buying that, but here we're starting off with kitnios. Since we're not starting with Isser, we're starting with kitnios with a minhag. And then it's so unrecognizable, so most of the world does that. The Starcade does not, and some other, certainly the Badat Eretz Yisrael, a number of them do not. But in America, notably the OU, and a number of other ones do use that kitnios shenishtanu, and that's on the diet, and the regular is just adding regular sugar to it.
So there's gonna be Coke and Pepsi and what's
That's with all of them, but there's
what's available?
what's available this year right now is only Coke, and what's available at Western Kosher and some of those is everything. Many sodas, but those cost a great deal because they're trucked in whole. They're not, when it comes to the Coke, all that's being brought in here is the syrup. And then I watched them. They empty the big tank, they kasha the tank. Now the most bulky product, the water, is local. That way they're bringing in a complete, just whole sodas. So of course they're paying for that trucking, but it's available in a couple of kosher stores. Yeah.
I see you have a box of almond breeze.
Yes, that's because this is one of those that it's not for you, Baruch Hashem, but if in those people who need it, either because they're sick or because it's a child in particular, very young children, this one works. It's only kitnios. It's kitnios, but it's only kitnios. Whereas, again, many of them are chometz. That takes dire situations to use, but there is almond milk, like Lieber makes it. It's good for everybody with a good hashgacha. There's a coconut one as well, a whitener, a coffee whitener. But we have 2 that's for everyone, and then there were a number of ones that I've listed over there for
Can
that.
you also go through, for the people that are watching, the hack that you talked about last year, about putting a lactase drop in an ice cube for those who have issues?
Sure, if someone needs a lactate pill, which definitely contains even a small amount of chometz, then before Pesach, they need to be mevatel it in 60. And the way to do that is to take a small cup and put in some water and melt it in there. Make sure that there's 60 times what would fill 60 pills in there. And now take that, the easiest thing is to dump it into an ice cube tray, and then before eating dairy, a person pops one of those, puts it into whatever they want to drink that, they've got their lactate, and they're good to go. That works, by the way, with things like applesauce, Jell-O. People use all sorts of things to put it in for the bittul. As long as we have 60, it's a good way to go.
Two quick questions. One of them is the Himalayan salt.
Himalayan salt generally is fine as long as it's the same thing. It's most are not iodized, as long as it's not without iodine. Again, we don't have nothing against iodine, but the iodine is stuck on with a corn syrup. But if it's uniodized, which most of them are, then that's absolutely fine. You know, something like this, Himalayan pink salt, and this is just fine to use.
But it's the cooking,
No
but
ashgacha
there's
whatsoever.
there's still the cooking issue.
This
though.
has no UP.
There's still the cooked issue with Himalayan salt, no?
There's what?
Whether or not you
if
can
it's-
use it-
Yes, there may be an issue of not official. Yeah. absolutely.
Just to get very clear clarification, if you have pet food that it says grain-free,
That's a good indication, but you should still go over the ingredients. I've listed all
Yeah, I
the
saw
ingredients
that.
to look in pet foods.
yeah,
So if you don't find any of those ingredients, and if it says that it is grain-free, of which many have, Petco and so on have, because dogs
Yeah.
sometimes are allergic to it, so that, again, but you gotta be careful for the milk meat.
yes, yes.
It is, keep in mind, the only time we can't use milk meat is if they're both kosher species. Not kosher, kosher species. So if there is ham and regular milk, that's fine to feed to the dog. Because those two are not basar b'chol. Basar b'chol is only if we could eat that type of thing. So it has to be, we don't have that, but if there was a camel's milk with regular, it's not horse's meat with milk, again, is fine. So any crosses, those are fine. Yeah.
I have two questions. Ready pack salads with the OV.
They say still, they don't want to say. They basically say that it's okay, but you'd have to wash it before Pesach. And to wash it before Pesach is probably going to ruin it.
So if I saw it in a kosher store, like last year I saw them in a kosher store, I was just wondering about it. So what's the deal with that?
They make with Pesach. They do make for Pesach. It's a question of the wash. The only question is the wash.
Feed on it?
It would have to have something on it, or it has to have something on the container. Could be that it's coming in a big box. A number of these companies, unfortunately, do not label privately. They only do the box. Somewhere it would have to say the wash they used had neither kitnios nor chametz.
And the second question is the virgin coconut oil with a different hashgacha. Would that be okay?
With
like
no
the-
hashgacha in theory, but certainly with, yes.
Like with the apple cake that you find. in
It's fine.
videos, It's fine.
That's fine. Apple cake, there's earth cake. The rabbi has a number of symbol cards in case anyone needs that might help.
Before you end, could I do the questions that are?
Absolutely.
Okay, somebody asked, where'd it go? I think you mentioned Lipton black tea,
Fine.
no problem. Avocado oil,
Pompeian is fine.
okay. And they also asked, so fresh coffee beans are okay? Just
Fresh coffee bean, it's okay for non-Jews.
No, not the company, just fresh.
Oh, coffee beans.
Yes.
Not coffee bean company. Coffee
know.
beans.
Right.
Fresh, unflavored coffee beans are fine.
Right, and I think they're asking for a clarification of olive oil, but I think you mentioned.
Extra virgin.
virgin.
Not virgin, again, it's
Right.
extra
And the
virgin.
last question is raw nuts in the barrel at Trader Joe's.
Mishnah Berurah says we don't buy barrels. Since people can walk by with bread and cookies, so we don't buy open barrels. They should be in closed containers, as long as they do not have BHA and BHT listed, it's just the nut, it's fine.
And one more cocoa.
Cocoa, the cocos in the United States are all fine, such as the Hershey cocoa, that's fine. Yeah, with no hush cocoa for Pesach, that's fine.
If I run out of my cinnamon, okay, that I have cinnamon next week, but I want to open up a new thing, but I want to be able to use it for Pesach. If I pour it, like, say, into a paper cup, and I can still reserve
So
that.
be careful.
I can be careful.
The issue is, the Gemara says, La'olal daite. La'olal daite, we don't have it in mind. We don't have in mind, I doubt that any of us could name what each one of us are wearing, what color shirt we're wearing. Why? Because we didn't need to know that. Why would we? Why would we check that? But when you have an answer to that question, why would you check? I mean, if you're in the middle of July and you're at a barbecue and you're using that, you're not thinking Pesach, you're thinking the barbecue. But now close to Pesach, and you say, this is what I'm going to do. So it's also magic. You're careful with it, it'll be perfectly fine. Absolutely. Okay, everyone.
And we'd like to thank
Have a
Rabbi
discussion,
again.
Pesach.
I'd like to thank Rabbi Eidlitz very much for everything he does throughout the year. We have the pamphlets, and we also have the kasher symbol cards. I have them here, anybody wants. Again, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Aaron Gross for the flyer, and also Major Fane for handling the Zoom, everything on the Zoom that we put on this.